We have a price cap for consumers, as Angela Knight was explaining, former CEO of UK Energy, but we don't have a price cap for wholesale users. So steel factories, utilities companies that then sell the energy on to us. So what's going to happen to some of those companies? They're going to collapse, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly a very, very challenging time for businesses in the face of rising gas costs. In terms of the point about what you were saying with spot trading, it was interesting because that came up in some of the comments that Putin was making yesterday. He was critical of the EU of trading this spot market.
An error, he called it, didn't he?
Yeah.
An error. We should go back to those long-term supply contracts that Ben Harris was talking about.
And also what was interesting in what he was saying was all about the outlook for prices and essentially what's going to happen next, because he's made it clear so far that Russia was kind of producing record levels. Now, his comments suggested otherwise. It felt as though actually there is potentially more gas that could come online. And that's why this is potentially a politically charged issue, especially when it comes to the Nord Stream pipeline.
Indeed, as Ben Harris explains, the Ukrainian interconnector to the south of Europe, that's basically supplied by Western Siberia. But Nord Stream 2, which goes from the north of Russia near St. Petersburg over to Germany, that's generally supplied by the more recently developed Arctic gas fields and those on the Yamal Peninsula. But I wanted to put something else to you, very much with your sort of financial markets hat on. I see financial markets swinging around in response to the rhetoric about this energy crisis, not just wholesale gas markets, but even stocks and shares on the FTSE, even bond markets, even government debt markets. It's really serious, though you wouldn't think of it if you only listened to the Prime Minister. How seriously do you think people are taking this warning from National Grid that we had overnight, that because of the part of the interconnector from France to the UK being knocked out, that we could actually face winter outages in the UK?
I think this is extremely serious, and what we're hearing from the EU, for example, is that this is a problem that's going to continue until next spring. So it's certainly going to get worse before it gets better. Now, in terms of the markets, we've seen a very jittery period for markets, not just in commodities, but in equities as well.
Anyway,
September and October tend to be a seasonally volatile month, and this year is no exception. We've got the potential for tighter monetary policy on the horizon as well, which could derail markets. Like you say, it's pushing up bond yields and weighing on the bond market. We've seen issues with Facebook as well this week, which has weighed on the tech sector. So
which is a huge chunk of global equities now, the so-called FANG stocks, Facebook, Amazon and so on.
Yeah, so there's sort of no shortage of jitteriness in the markets at the moment.
And we're seeing the weight of money in financial markets betting now on interest rate rises sooner rather than later. The money markets were looking at mid-23 for an interest rate rise. Now they're looking at early 2022.
Yeah, and some of the inflation-linked bonds are pointing to UK inflation up around sort of 7% next year. So that's completely mispriced, but at the same time, it continues to move higher. So these bond traders who are trading short are getting caught off guard.